My lords, no one in this chamber should be in any doubt over how much of a challenge setting a budget must be, given the signs of structural decline that regrettably seem evident in this economy today. It is, for example, worth reminding ourselves that today, if Britain were ranked against all 50 US states in terms of wealth, it would be last, with Britain's GDP per capita falling below America's poorest state, Mississippi. Moreover, over the last 10 years, Britain's per capita income has flatlined, going from £31,000 in 2014 to around £33,000 in 2023. And while only 25 years ago, Britain's economy was larger than China's, it is now just 20% of its size. I believe this is not simply about China's exceptional growth trajectory over 30 years. It is also about Britain's multi-decade policy choices, which have inadvertently created an economic environment that is largely not attractive to investment. Of course, statistics that compare countries against each other and over time have their limitations. But these data do show trends that have deleterious consequences on the real economic lives of citizens and the government's ability to fund public goods such as health, education, and infrastructure. These facts also support a damaging narrative of Britain not being a top destination for investment. To this end, as we scrutinize this budget, a key question is whether private investors, both domestic and international, are now more likely to allocate investment capital to the United Kingdom. The answer, I believe, is that the future flow of investment into Britain on the back of this budget will be limited. On the positive side, there is some investment, as has been mentioned already. Just before the budget, investment pledges of £60 billion were made at the Global Investment Summit. And in the budget, the government commits to investment in the key industries of the future through the National Wealth Fund: aerospace, life sciences, green hydrogen, carbon capture ports, and gigafactories. And the budget also earmarks investment for public services in line with the recommendations of the IMF to bring the UK in line with her peers in terms of public spending. All of this sounds promising. However, my lords, this budget has not adequately addressed considerable barriers to private investment that remain. First, in spite of the budget, Britain's economic growth outlook remains tragically low, below 2% over the next 5 years. Second, the lack of breadth and depth of the UK capital markets is a deterrent for new and important startups. The FTSE 100 remains dominated by traditional industries such as mining and banking. This could partly explain why this year Britain has traded at a 40% discount to developed markets. Related to this, Britain's reputation for burdensome regulation creates a risk that it could substantially miss out on the dividends from the emerging AI and energy transition growth-enhancing supercycles. Regulatory logjams gum up the capital markets, meaning scarce opportunities for innovation and technology startups to list in London. My lords, we know that global investors have compelling investment opportunities. The Magnificent Seven technology stocks last year returned 76%. Fast-growing Middle Eastern economies, including the GCC, are forecast to be larger than the UK economy by 2026. And even the ability to generate 5% per annum returns by simply allocating cash to US treasuries, the risk-free rate. My lords, as a director on corporate boards and a member of an investment committee of an endowment, I am aware that many investors will not yet allocate capital to Britain based on this budget. This is because they interpret it, as has been described here in this chamber, a stabilization budget, largely seeking to reduce political and economic uncertainty and really not to spur growth. It's an opportunity to demonstrate credibility and competence in managing the government fiscus, but not to spur growth. And while investors see public investment as necessary, they do not see it as sufficient in the pursuit of economic growth. Crucially, investors see this budget only as an interim step to pave the way for future growth policies. As such, investors will need to see much more aggressive policy, regulatory, and fiscal reforms that go for growth, such as overdue reform in capital markets, especially the easing of regulation. More generally, investors will tolerate, my lords, more generally, investors will tolerate either high taxes or heavy regulations, but not both. Over time, remembering this principle will put the UK in a position to credibly compete for investment once more.
Yeah.